So let's try an example. The U.S. market shares percent of U.S. vehicle sales, in other words, of Ford are shown in the following table for various years. A. Let S equal f of t be Ford's U.S. market shares in percent at t years since 1995. Find an equation of f. Does the model fit the data well? B. Find f at 15. What does it mean in this situation? C. Find t when f of t equals 15. What does it mean in this situation? D. Find S and T intercepts and what do they mean in this situation? So do keep in mind, I always recommend that you read problems at least 2 to 3 times, okay? It will make your life a lot easier, especially for word problems. So let's start with our equation. We need the basic equation at the top of our page. I highly recommend it. Y equals mx plus b. And let's remember that slope is the m value. It's how it increases or changes or decreases as well. Y-intercept is the v value, which we can have as a full coordinate, or should be typically written as a full coordinate if you're telling me it's the y-intercept, 0, b. And let's notice that this occurred since 1995. Okay, so be aware of that. So because it occurred since 1995, we want to convert this to singular years. Once again, since 1995 implies that year 0 is 1995. So converting our table's years into singular years. I'm just going to do it for reference on the same table. 1998 since 1995, 3 years have passed. 1995 to 2000, 5 years. 1995 to 2002, 7 years have passed. To 2004, 8 years, or pardon me, 9 years have passed. And 2005, 10 years have passed. And here's a rough sketch of what that looks like. I went ahead of this and made a little sketch for reference. And we could probably do a line of best fit, since it looks like our scattergram may not be exactly in a line, but it could be represented by a line. There we go. So it's approximately linearly related. Okay, we can kind of tell that there's some points that would be preferable as a choice than others. But otherwise, let's just say that 3,26, so the first year, which gave us 26%, would be the first coordinate, and let's choose the 10, 18. So the last coordinates look like their fair choice for calculating an equation. So let's remember the slope formula. M equals y2 minus y1 divided by x2 minus x1. Do remember the ones and the twos don't imply anything other than you have 2 coordinates, which we already have there. Do notice that's why I have them in colors, different colors, since we can just define them as 2 separate coordinates and say, let's select one of them to be first, which means the y always goes on top of the x. That's the only restriction. Put the y on top of that same x coordinate. So 18 over 10. And the second coordinate, the y value on top of the x, 26 over 3. Now we simplify. 18 minus 26, and that gives us negative 8. 10 minus 3 gives us 7. So here we find our intermediate value solution, which is the slope. So let's plug it into our equation. Y equals mx plus b. We now know the slope is negative 8 over 7. And I'll keep it as an exact fraction for now. So up next, let's plug in the values. So let's say we chose the coordinate 3, 26. So the x and y values are basically substituted. So x is 3, y is 26. We replace them. And there's the slope once again. Negative 8 over 7. And now we simplify. But do remember, it's kind of hard to simplify. But if it helps you out, put a 1 underneath that 3 so that you can multiply fractions. So this is a pure multiplication fraction in that portion. So simplifying the fraction, 8 times 3 gives us 24, and now be a negative. 7 times 1 gives us 7. And now we can solve for b. So solving for b, let's first convert to a decimal. 24 divided by 7 gives us 3.43, and it's a negative. And now let's get rid of 3.43. Since it's a negative, we add it to both sides. Negative 3.43 cancels with negative 3.43. And 26 plus 3.43 now gives us that the v value is 29.43. So we found the y value of our y-intercept. There's our other intermediate solution. So finally, completing our formula, we know that the slope is negative 8 over 7. That's what we calculated or found previously. And our v value is 29.43. So we replace the m and v values to finally get our equation. y equals negative 8 over 7x plus 29.43. Hey, but we were looking for specific variables, f of t, right? So f and t. So even though this is our equation, we can call it intermediate solution. And for question A, find the equation in the form of f of t. We call f of t now equals our slope, which happens to be negative 8 over 7 t instead of the x plus 29.43. So all we've done is instead of calling y equals, now we replaced it with our new function notation format, f of t. And instead of the x, we have the t representative that we needed for this question. So now we found the equation that we needed. This represents the trend, or how it's practically decreasing for forced U.S. macro shares. Keep in mind, this is a problem just for reference, okay? B, find f at 15. Well, that implies that the x value is 15. So f at 15, we replace the t value, which is the x representative. So now we have negative 8 over 7 times 15 plus 29.43. Let's put a 1 underneath that 15 to make it easier to simplify the fractions, or multiply them. So f at 15 equals, we have negative 8 times 15 gives us negative 120, and 7 times 1 gives us 7. So there's our new and simplified expression so far. And now let's simplify further. Well, decimals would be okay. So negative 120 divided by 7 gives us 17.14 for our intermediate value so far. So negative 17.14 plus 29.43 now finally gives us that f at 15 equals 12.29. So 15 years later, for U.S. market shares would be 12.29% roughly. Okay, well, how about the next one? C. Find t when f of t equals 15 and what is a min in this situation. So that means that the y value is 15. So let's replace the y value from the previously found equation with 15. So we have 15 equals negative 8 divided by 7x plus 29.43. Let's get rid of the 29.43 from both sides of the equation so that we can solve for x. 15 minus 29.43, let's cancel it out on the right side. So we have 14.43 equals negative 8 over 7x. And now we want to get rid of the negative 8 over 7 from the x. That way we can solve for it. So that means reciprocal, multiplying by the reciprocal. In other words, flip the fraction. What we do to one side, we must do to the other side as well. So it's negative 7 over 8 and negative 7 over 8 on the other one. So it's the reciprocal of negative 8 over 7. And notice that we can always put the 14.43 over 1 to make it a fraction. Well, fraction format, ideally. It's kind of funny looking, but it should work still. Remember, top numbers multiply, bottom numbers multiply together. Okay, but on the right side, we can cancel them out. Negative 8 over 7 cancels out with negative 7 over 8 because you have 8 on top multiplying and 8 on the bottom dividing. 7 on the top multiplying and 7 on the bottom dividing. Negative, negative makes it a positive. So they cancel each other out. And I'll leave it up to you to do the multiplication of negative 7 times 14.43 and 8 times 1. And then take the result of that and divide it. So in other words, divide the result of negative 7 times 14.43 divided by 8. Which should give you roughly 12.6. 12.6, huh? We're talking about years, right? So x represents the years, or the t value. So roughly 13 years. So 13 years since 1995, well, that means we're adding. 1995 plus 13 gives us 2008. So this means in 2008, Ford's U.S. market share was at 15% roughly. D, find the S and T intercepts and what do they mean? So let's see. T-intercept, first of all, that means that we're looking for the x-intercept. In other words, it's the x representative. T is the x representative. That means the y is 0. So our coordinate, blank, comma, 0. We're looking for the x value or the t value, in other words, for this case. So in our equation, that means that y equals 0. So we're going to replace the f of t with 0. 0 equals. And everything else would be the same as what we found previously for our equation. So now let's get rid of the negative, or the 29.43 by subtracting it from both sides since it's positive. 0 minus 29.43, 29.43, right? And we have the negative 8 over 7x still on the right side. Let's get rid of the negative 8 over 7 by the reciprocal. In other words, multiplying the reciprocal. What we do to one side, we must do to the other. Reciprocal of 8 over 7, well, 7 over 8, right? And do remember, you got to take the negative with it, so that's why the parentheses, so that we can imply it's multiplying. Let's put over 1 the 29.43, and do remember that negative 8 over 7 cancels with the 7 over 8 since they're equal and opposite. Okay, and now we multiply negative 7 times 29.43 divided by 8 times 1, which gives us roughly 25.8, or approximately 26, right? Since we're talking about, once again, years. So roughly 26 years would be our t-intercept for this case. So 26, 0 would be our coordinate. And this means that in 1995 plus 26 years gives us 2021. So in the year 2021, there would be 0% sales for Ford, supposedly, according to this model. Thankfully, it could be wrong, preferably, right? Otherwise, our economy would greatly suffer even more now. Okay, so going for our S, or y-intercept, in other words. So S or y-intercept, our equation, once again, is the same as what we found previously for step A. So that means for the y-intercept, we know that the x value has to be 0. And to remember, plugging in the x value of 0, wherever we have an x value of 0, or an x value, we plug in 0, I should say. 8 over 7 times 0, well, that's 0. So overall, that just gives us 29.43 then. So f at 0 equals 29.43. So 29.43, hey, this is at x is 0, or t is 0, I should say. Time is 0. So that means 1995. So there were 29.43% sales in 1995, or at the start of this model. So this gives us a brief overlook at what could be a trend for companies as a reference.